Hi, my name is Deirdre. I'm a middle school teacher from New Jersey, and I'm continuing a video about Google Classroom. Last time I discussed announcements and assignments, and this time I'm going to talk about questions and then what happens after you post something. So I'm going to start with my home Google Classroom page. I went to classroom.google.com to get to this page. I'm going to show you my third period class. And again, I have separate classes because some of my classes I want to only post things for the students to get and have on their drive or use only on their drive. And then I have a different class for each individual period so that when students are given an assignment or when I give them a specific question, then it's only those students in that class whose question I see. For example, I'm going to go to the plus sign down here, and here's where you can create an announcement, which I talked about in the last video, where you can create an assignment, which I talked about in the last video, or you can create a question. So this is what it looks like when you click on it. You make the question, and then what did you do this weekend? And then you can create instructions, which are optional. A lot of times my students have a hard time remembering to read the directions on these things for some reason. And unfortunately, Google at this point hasn't made it that you can bold anything or change the colors yet, but I'll show you how to give feedback to Google because that would be something I would personally would love to see. You can make a due date for it. So right now the due date and time is January 26th, and you can make a time optional where it will be like midnight tonight. And after that time, the students cannot post an answer. Or you can check this off and there would be no due date. And then whichever choice you make, you just click save. So once I create the question, you click the word ask. You can also copy this to other classes. So for example, this is my third period class, but I have other individual classes. I have ninth period and I have one other class that are all the same level, and I would want them to have the same question. So I would check these off. And once those are checked off, it says 3 classes selected. You can have the kids watch a video and then answer a question about the video. You can give them a reading from your Google Drive where they would need to read something or read directions maybe of a rubric, and then they would need to ask questions about a rubric. You can attach a file from your computer, maybe a PDF of a short story, and then you might post some comprehension questions that they need to answer, or a link, maybe something like you want them to look at a website, a Google map, or just a general website, and then answer questions about it or get some information and say, what did you learn from this website? And whichever choice you make, you would click ask. And what will happen is it will look like this. So I just clicked it off actually, and I didn't post it. But at the top of this, it should come up as a draft. So even if you create the question and you don't post it immediately, you can always go back in and you can then click ask at another time because it's automatically saved at the top. So let's show you what I did last time. I posted a question. It was their do now question, para empezar. And the night before, they had to look up some tourist sites from websites I had given the students, and they needed to tell me where they would like to visit. So notice I teach Spanish, so I actually write the question in Spanish, and then I write the question in English. One thing I found that's a little interesting about creating questions is for some reason, this says I have 17 done. So if I click on that, I can go in and see all of the students who have posted answers. Now, the interesting thing is that this says these students did not do it. However, if I go back into the Google Classroom, I can actually see in these comments that the students who are listed as not done are underneath the comments for some reason. So I don't know if the students did this incorrectly or if my directions just weren't clear enough. One of the things that I also would like to consider giving feedback for Google is that there's no choice for me to switch to see what the students see. So I find that a little frustrating because sometimes I post something and then I say, okay, I want them to do this, this, and this. And when they start doing it, I'm noticing that they're doing it differently than I was expecting. But the problem is I can't see why unless the students are right in front of me or unless I go in and I have their login information. I don't really like doing that. I think it's a little risky to go in as my student. However, nevertheless, you can go in, and anybody who's done, you can assign them points. You can change these points if you want to, or you can make it ungraded. And so for these students, I can go in and say, I can now say, give them all a private comment. I can say, gracias por tus opiniones. Thank you for your opinions. And then I click return, and all those students will see that I gave them a comment saying, thank you for your feedback. So I actually would want this ungraded, so I'm going to change it. And if students have already been given grades, they will be notified that the student, just kidding, the teacher changed it so it's not graded now. So you can see that I gave all the students the general comment. I believe you can also go in and give one student a comment. So if I replied to him, I can give him a comment that would be shown on the feed, or I can give him another private comment separately. So that's how you would use a question. And to go back to your page, you would click the arrow and it will bring you back to your main page. Once you post something, interestingly enough, it's a little annoying to have to put them in order. So for example, if I post this question now and I click ask, see and reply to each other's answers, you can decide what the students can do. Can they see and reply to each other's answers, and then if they can edit their answers. So if you click that off, they can't change it once they have posted it. If you click this off, that means that they wouldn't see each other's and they cannot reply to each other's. So it really depends on what you want them to be able to do. So let's say I post this. Now the last thing I posted is going to be the top thing. But in a case where you want something else to go first and you've already posted it, you can click on the 3 dots and go move to the top. And then that post will be moved all the way to the top if you want. So it does require some maybe pre-planning, because it goes in order of how you post them, goes from bottom to top. If you want the question to be last, you need to post it last. So that takes some pre-planning or just a little bit of legwork where you're moving things around by going move to the top. You can edit anything you need to, or you can simply delete it. Like I don't want to know what my kids did this weekend, so I'm going to click delete. And then it's deleted off the stream. So that's about the questions, and it's the same idea that you can give the students a grade, and also, but this will not show up in the Google Classroom folder. So questions do not show up in the Google Classroom folder. They only show up in the actual stream or in your private comments. Let me show you again. So I'm going to open that up again, and then it's all there. So that's how you would do a question, and also where you would grade it, and some little tips about how you might organize your posts. One last thing I want to show you is how to send feedback. So down here is the question symbol, and you could send feedback to Google, where I might say, I would like to have access to a student view perspective so I know what the kids are seeing when I post things, period. And then click next, and please highlight, click next. It doesn't matter to me. So then submit. Done. And that's how they would see my feedback. And usually Google's really good about taking teachers' feedback and student feedback and really making it more useful and user-friendly for us. So I hope that's a helpful video for you, and thank you very much for your attention.